Thank you guys all for coming. All of you. We know it's low attendance, but we're sure people are going to tune in on TV and see this later. And in the newspaper. And probably on the radio station. And Veron's going to put it on Facebook, so everyone's going to see it. Even though we have low attendance, we think this is a very important thing to do for the election so that our constituents can be introduced to the candidates who are running and know what they're running for. So they're going to take it from here. Thanks.
All right, so we're going to get started. Can the candidates come up? Please introduce yourself, state the position that you're running for, and why you are suited for that position.
Hi folks, my name is Andrew Shushu, currently the junior class representative. I'm running for student council president for next year. I'm currently the chair of the finance committee. I've also been the president of the outing club, and I'm currently a fellow with the humanities department working to help facilitate the difficult dialogues program on campus. I feel I'm best suited for president through my work on finance committee. We've established a lot of transparency bylaws and a lot of practices by which everybody in the student body can know where their SAF fund goes to. I also have the best track record of accomplishing the goals that I set out to accomplish. One of the big issues that I ran on for junior class rep was financial transparency. With the finance committee, we enacted the first policy in 101 student council sessions to establish an audit process for student council, because before this year, student council didn't have an audit process that every other club has to go through it, so we figured it would be the best order of business to go through it ourselves. Also, we established a bylaw that makes the finance committee have to publish a dollar-by-dollar breakdown to show where every student's money goes to. And we published that on February 18th, and we also held a financial forum to create a dialogue around the subject of finance and how clubs obtain that money and how students can also get involved in the process, so they can be completely open and transparent. Thank you.
Hi, I am Kate Lally. I'm running for secretary. I'm currently Dodd Hall representative. I've served on council for this past year, and I have been the chair of both organizational committee as well as grants committee. And I think in being chairs of both those committees, I've had a pretty good experience on student council, chairing both of those committees and pushing things forward through them. I've had a direct voice and a direct contact with a lot of my constituents and being a part of those committees, and I think that pushing forward, with those experiences behind me, I'll be able to make a very good secretary for student council. I've also worked with Andrew on a couple of things to try to, make student council more transparent. I helped him with the event to help, our constituents and the students of Clark understand, the finances of student council. I've also participated in multiple of the events that student council has put on, really showing my support for the body, because I feel like it's a great tool for students, to be able to get their voice out and to be able to connect with the alumni and with the teachers and the professors at Clark, as well as the administrators. So pushing forward in student council, I wish to continue some of those things. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sam Hicks. I'm the sophomore class representative. This is my second year serving. I served before as freshman class rep. During that time I've served mostly on organizational and communications. I also had a brief time as organizational chair, in which I had set up a system to organize some of our funds And I also publicized some of our space allocation sources. I'm currently the vice chair of communications, and during that time we've worked hard on taking information from council and publicizing it. We've put a lot of effort in working with other classmates, and I think I'll come back when we have more questions. Thank you.
And last but not least, I would like to welcome our other contestant for vice president to speak. Is there a second?
My name's Naya Selko, and I'm presently in London, so I'm sorry that I'm Skyping in. I have served as both a member of Grants Committee last year and an off-campus representative and chair of Grants Committee this year. As chair of Grants Committee, we worked really hard to publicize Grants Committee and get all clubs funding, the word out about grants. As the office, I worked really hard to open with universities and better methods of communication and get the word out there about UP resources for the students.
All right, we have a bit of technical difficulties going on, so everyone in the audience, please pardon us. Without further ado, I suppose we'll move on to the next question. As a member of student council, what improvements do you have in mind?
Hey folks. Major issues that I see going forward it's transportation. There's a bit of a safety issue, a bit of a transportation issue, and there's always been the question of students wanting to get more involved in the city of Worcester that we live in. So one of the plans that I've been working on with Maya is that it's modeled after a plan that Assumption College is currently working on. It's a plan to come up with a contract with a local cab company so we can either get reduced or flat fare taxi service for students on campus with the use of your Clark ID. And that way we'll be able to, travel around the city of Worcester better, get integrated with our community, be able to go downtown. We'll be able to build a pipeline between going downtown and getting involved at, the DC Center. We can go to concerts, go see the Worcester the Sharks play, and really get more integrated into the community. There's also the issues, if you're going to, other campuses with a group of friends, or you're visiting a friend at another campus, there's always issues with getting back, and the fact that, you might run out of money, or, trying to get back from Union Station to campus after break, and there's always been issues with students on those parts. So with the fact that if we can reduce fares and help students find a way to transport themselves around the city better, that'd be a good initiative to take forward. And me and Maya are currently working on a report on that subject to publish and then hopefully get funding for it for next year. Another one of the issues that we're looking at is, maybe it's outside of the realm of student council, but it's the issue of building accessibility and disability services. The majority of the dormitories and the buildings on campus, especially the academic buildings, aren't handicap accessible, aren't accessible for individuals with disabilities. So one of the things that's personally my issue on campus. And I thought that going forward, I want to see student council take a lead on kind of building awareness around that and trying to build a bridge with the administration to try to solve that problem. We're going to have to discuss that with the Board of Trustees, with the administration. And there's a lot of work that has to be done in that sector, and perhaps that's outside of student council. But that's definitely an issue that we need to take up simply as citizens and as community members. It's not fair to have to give somebody with a disability a tougher chance of getting to class, because we're here to learn. And if there's something in the way of allowing students to do that, everybody should be involved in that process of trying to alleviate that problem. One of the other issues that we're currently working on is that the issue of media services charges and room fees is one of the issues that me and Malat Sayam, who's running for treasurer right now, we're taking that on. A couple years ago, that fee didn't exist for clubs, and we figured that it's calculating the effect that clubs' budgets have gone up in recent years. It's kind of a negligible increase because that fee has also been introduced, and that makes the amount of money that clubs can spend on programming kind of negligible. And we're going to try to either pay a block grant at the start of the year so that clubs can get reduced fare in that case, or eliminate it completely, because we think that it reduces the amount of programming that we can effectively have on campus. Also, one of the things is the issue of on-campus housing. Many other colleges in the Worcester Consortium and in Massachusetts and in New England, for that matter, guarantee housing for undergraduates. I think specifically with a student population that's about 25% from out of the country, we have that's a particularly scary issue if you come from thousands of miles away and you're not guaranteed a place to live. That goes along with the other issues that I've discussed, that there are issues directly related to health and human services, and then just simply quality of life that haven't been attenuated for, and we need to address them simply because there are issues out there that are affecting all students. It doesn't matter what club you're in, it doesn't matter where you come from. We're all facing the same problems, and those are the issues that we need to begin taking up. Thank you.
If I could ask for a point of clarification, if we go back to the subsidized taxi fees, how much of a reduction would we be looking at, and also how would you go about funding that? Is it going to come out of the SAF, in which case students would be paying for it anyway?
In that case, we're looking at all the different options that we have right now. We're simply in the plan with trying to communicate with the administration and communicate with the different companies to find the best deal. There's still plenty of time. That was going to be one of our accomplishments that we got done at the end of this year, so that the plan could be implemented at the start of next year. Our hope was that we could reduce it to, say it's a $10 cab ride from here to Union Station typically. If we could reduce that by 25%, or say it depends on how much you invest in the first place. If you invest, a couple, tens of thousands of dollars, you can you can get a flat fare of $5. These are just numbers. It depends on how much you initially invest and how much the ridership increases, how many students use the service, if it's financially soluble, if people are actually going to get our money's worth for that perspective. So there's a lot of competing factors, so that question can't be empirically answered at this point in time.
Thank you.
Along with all of the things that Andrew was just talking about, I've also been working with Andrew to try to bring health services to Clark, the actual Clark campus, and make it a lot more accessible for the students here. A lot of the feedback that we've been getting is that students find it hard to go to health services, that it's difficult to communicate with them, and it's difficult to get access to their services. And because of that, we've been working on trying to possibly bring a kiosk here to sort of relay the students to health services, possibly being able to set up appointments with them, being able to show when their availability is, and further trying to bring the students directly there. A student who has a broken leg is not able to walk those however many blocks it takes to get to health services. And so one of the ideas we were throwing around was to have a possible escort van being able to run for those couple hours of the day just to health services to help those students get there easily and more safely. And then having the kiosk here would allow them to set up their appointments and talk directly to health services about their problems without having to walk all the way over there beforehand. Or having to go through the phone service, which at times can be a little difficult because you're not always directly speaking to one person. And also, one of the things that I would hope to bring to council in sort of the same spirit that the past eboard has been doing would be trying to bring these sorts of goals that we're talking about to the mindset of council. Making sure that council in general is always thinking about ways to improve the campus, ways that they can help their student body in ways that they can help improve council as a whole. And I think that making sure that that's in the mindset of all of council is a really great thing moving forward, and that's one of the things that our current eboard is challenging us to do, and that's one thing that I hope to bring to further council members, and really making sure that we keep that in mind whenever we're, debating, or when we're in council, or when we're talking to our constituents. Thank you.
Things that I think I would like to improve on student council. I believe there's a mixture of internal things as well as external things we should try to improve on. One of these things is, I think currently I feel that student council has gotten a little bit of a bad PR issue. We have probably some people don't like us, or we have some appearances which we should try to improve. And that's one thing I think we should try to look at. I also think we also have a really bad turnover rate, where we had a lot of representatives back out who dropped in midterm. And I think this is maybe some of the signs of lack of incorporation of all our council members. And I think that's something we should try, that I would focus on trying to improve it. Try to get a gender to make student council a little more effective as an organization. And in turn, there's a lot of overlap as well with kind of this focus. I believe we should also, something that is a bit more of an external thing I think we should try to work on, is to have better representation in student council. Try to encourage more representatives, try to encourage more people to apply for representative positions, and try to get more people involved in these decision-making processes. And one of the reasons I'm working on that, I'm working with John from Judiciary. I'm also working with Andrew Young from Judiciary to try to make bylaws to get more representatives in student council, to give them more say when they don't have the means to show up to meetings for legitimate reasons. One of the things I've worked on as class representative was trying to engage more artists, try to bring in more musical talent to tap all that potential energy that we have there. Because the school has a lot of really gifted people, and I feel sometimes the way is to me, sometimes it's a little hard for them to present their stuff, to represent what they can do. And one of the things I've been working on is trying to get a DJ festival of Clark DJs. This is something right now. This Clark DJ list has already expanded to a few potential DJs have already applied, and we have them. We're still working on the list. This is hopefully one step that we can expand to incorporate more artists and bring in more people. Try to bring more artists of different types. Try to connect them with clubs that are hosting events. That's something else I'm trying to work on. And finally, another thing that I mentioned a little bit before was trying to get more information out there, trying to make more information publicized. I have been working hard on that, getting through as vice chair for communications. I've worked with the webmaster to publish more information on the web to make it more accessible. And I'm also I really think there's a lot of good ideas here. If I get elected, I'd be more than willing to help all of our initiatives and plans. Thank you.
I think building on both of it, during case study, I think one of the other things we can work on as students is keeping it transparent. There were a few bylaws passed this year, encouraging any transparency and so.
Turn your video off.
Can I? Should I turn my video off?
Yeah, turn your video off. Go ahead.
So I think another important thing is working on the transparency. I also think another big thing is working on bringing the students' voices into it and working a lot with trying to hear what students need, what the students want, and coming up with ways, putting on events or whatever forums to find out what is needed and make sure everyone has the information.
Thank you very much. This question is directed towards the two candidates for vice president. Please tell us what suits you better for the position than your opponent.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Directed towards the two candidates for vice president, what suits you personally better for the position than your opponent?
I've been in situations. One of the things that one of the things that makes me different than most of my opponents is that I've seen some of the problems with the status quo, where some of our policy, with some of our internal workings, with selecting chairmen and vice chairmen, have been misused a little bit, and sometimes I see where sometimes we don't always have most effective people working in positions that they could be working in. Just sometimes decision making, it doesn't always incorporate everyone when they're being made. One thing, and I personally have an understanding of when decisions have been made without my opinion taken in, and I know how it feels. And people who on student council and off student council who may have that problem with, who may have felt that they've been kept out, I can connect with them, and I'll be more than willing to try to listen to them and make sure their opinions are heard, not after the decision is made, but before the decision is made, making sure that they know what we're talking about, that our decision, and that they're part of the decision process. And that's something that I think separates me a little bit from some of my opponents. And that's something I would try to bring to the eboard on student council. Thank you.
I think my work, working with different clubs and different organizations, gives me a unique view into the workings of clubs and all together. That gives me an insight into what needs to be done and what needs to be changed, and helps me and what people want and what people need.
Alright, sorry again for the technical difficulties. So our next question, it has been proposed that a green fund be made with a portion of the student activities fund. One option would be increasing the amount students pay towards the SEF each year, what are your opinions on increasing the SAF by $50 a year to create a green fund? Well, with the green fund, which would be used to promote sustainable efforts on campus, would potentially use money from the SAF. And the question is, what are your opinions on increasing the SAF by $15 a year in order to create this fund?
All right, in the first place, I'm completely in favor of the green movement that's on campus. I'm in favor of the sustainability sustainability idea, all the amazing work that Eco Reps and the Sustainability Collaborative has worked. However, there's also the issue of if we increase the SAF, it has to be approved by the student body. I would be in favor of it. However, we also have to take into account that it's not completely our decision of the people here on the board. There has to be a majority of the students in favor of it. So that's constitutionally, it's not, the power isn't limited to simply the executive board or to members of council. There has to be support of it on campus. If there was support of it on campus, I would undeniably support it. Thank you.
Having worked on grants, I understand sort of, when people come to you, how difficult it can be to try to find the right place to pull from funds, or how difficult it is to decide how much should be going where. And I believe that an extra fund going specifically to eco-friendly things or to improve the sustainability of Clark would be a good idea, because I think that a lot of the people on campus have some great ideas to bring sustainability to Clark. And as long as those initiatives were brought forward and as long as those initiatives were followed through, I can see grants being able to work with these people, to make these things happen. And I think that that would be a great addition to either grants committee or some of the other committees that we have on campus, or through student council that deal with some of the funds. But to echo what Andrew said, it is a decision that has to be presented to the student body, and raising, the fund, even that little amount, may not be something that Clark students want to see, even if they want to see sustainability come to Clark. So maybe if the student body wasn't in support of that particular movement, we could try to find other ways to incorporate sustainable initiatives into student council and to see other ways in which we could fund those, extremely important initiatives. So, thank you.
I would openly admit that my experience in the financial parts of student council is a little more limited than the others sitting here now. But I would definitely agree. I fully agree with what Shushu said, is that it's something that we need to see the will of see what the will of the people want, see what they want. Personally, I think being environmentalism is environment is a very important thing, and being from California, just growing up in that type of atmosphere, just environmentalism has kind of grown on me a little bit. And even I think giving money may not be the only way the student council can help. Student council has helped organizations in other ways, not just monetary means. We have helped host events with clubs. We've offered advice and a lot of other good information. So I would, if there is a group that's interested in seeking funding, I would encourage them, but I would also offer them some of our other services that we have and try to help them in other ways. Try to help them in all the ways we can. Thank you.
Echoing what the other candidates have said, there have been ways that Grants Committee has funded different green initiatives, something that is big on campus right now. Sustainability is very important. Grants, for example, funded a drying rack initiative, which will help to lower costs of drying in the houses. Student council through cumulative surplus helped with the recycling initiative, and student council, once again back to the Clark Sustainability Initiative, helped get work out of the So student council has been practicing a lot of screening initiatives, which is big on campus right now. But I also echo what everyone else has said about it has to be something that comes from the students. It can't be something people dictate. So while we need support, it needs to be something where the student can take it.
Thank you. Recently, there was an incident which resulted in the slide projector in the cafeteria not being included in the budget. How would you avoid future issues of communication such as this, and if one were to come up, how would you handle it?
Right, so as the chair of the finance committee, that was my committee's misgiving, albeit. The structure of the confusing amount of money, right, I had to start back with it. There's a long story that goes into the allocation of the SAF and for mid-semester budgets. Each year for the annual budget process, we estimate that there will be 2,000 students. What happens then is that each SAF money, each $350 goes into the fund, and that equals about $700,000, and then that's allocated out to different groups and different other funds. The mid-semester budget comes from the process of the amount of more students that there are than the 2,000 number. So say there's 2,150 students. The money that's allocated for mid-semester budgets comes from that 150 students, and then goes to the account for mid-semester budget allocations. There wasn't a clear line of communication between SLD. From SLD, it would go to the treasurer, and then from the treasurer to me. We didn't have the exact amount of money going in from when we allocated that money in December. We didn't know how much there would be, how much that amount would equal. Then going into January, we were told, the treasurer was told, and I was told that there would be about $34,000 for mid-semester budgets. We went from that number and then allocated to the 13 different groups, and six of those 13 groups were new groups on campus. So that's one of the good things that came out of that process, was that we were able to, from the starting of 6 new groups, what we ended up figuring out was that the $34,000, everybody figured this out together. That $34,000 was what we would have had to originally start with. We thought that was simply after the allocation. That's why what happened. The only way to solve this would be to take this as a stepping stone and go forward. Make sure that there's a clean line of communication, and simplify shorten the chain of communication that has to occur between SLP, the administration, and between the student council treasurer position and the chair of the finance committee. Because there's one person tells the number to the other person, that person tells it to the other person. So if we can shorten that chain of custody of the amount of how much we have for allocations, then that would be simply the best choice to simplify the process. Also, early planning would go in better. We didn't know how much there would be for mid-semesters when we started the mid-semester budget in December. The best course of action in that case would have been to possibly wait a couple of weeks until everybody knew succinctly what the specific amount was. So it's just this systemic issue of where the money comes from that's kind of the derivative of the problem. And also just the fact that we need to be more aware in the future, and sometimes it is better to wait to figure out how much you have specifically to allocate before you take any action on the issue.
I think Andrew just kind of summed it up pretty well. I would just kind of emphasize the idea of just making the communication as clear as possible, and make information as easy to access as possible. That's something that communications always been trying to work on, trying to make sure all of our funds and where the money breakdown is gone is as published as possible, and that all of that some of these mistakes can be seen by other people, and then hopefully try to be prevented, and hopefully the transparency can be a type of safeguard, perhaps, to try to hopefully avoid some of these future problems from happening. Thank you.
Would any other candidates like to respond to the question? If not, we will move on to the last question, which is a bit of Clark trivia and is open to the first person to respond to the correct answer. Before Title IX was passed, where did the women's basketball team practice at Clark University? I would like to start playing the Jeopardy theme song. Please go ahead. Anyone want to guess? It wasn't the Neller.
Tilton Hall?
Sorry.
That was his choice.
Any other guesses?
Cafeteria.
Sorry. Can't phone a friend.
Could you use it in a sentence?
Well, if I abbreviated it, that would really give you an easy answer.
JC?
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh.
It was, in fact, the first floor of the JC where there were still pillars. So imagine playing basketball on a court with a bunch of pillars around. That would not be very good, huh? All right, thanks for playing, guys. If anyone has any closing remarks they would like to make, that will conclude the questions of tonight's debate. Anyone?
I just want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you to our candidates, and thanks to our media sources for coming and moderating this. Have a good night.
Recommend I need here.
I was going to.
Sam, there's an exemption.
Well, besides, thank you all for coming. I just kind of want to emphasize that the big things I want to work on are representation, is getting full representation, working on trying to get more students to be engaged in student activities, and there's a lot of other really good issues that have been brought up by my opponents and friends and all of you, and it's something that just requires a good leader. You guys should just look at our criteria, see what we've done, ask us questions, and try to make a vote as educated as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, just want to remind you to make sure to tell your friends to vote on March 1st and 2nd. That's the most important thing going forward. There's sometimes the issue comes up of dichotomous language and the fact that we're all friends here. We're working for the betterment of the student body, and this isn't exactly a debate. This is the forum to discuss the issues. And that's another thing that I think my group will bring to the student council with Maya, Malad, and Kate, is that we're going to change the language that we use and try to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, and make student council a less threatening place to be. So remember to tell your friends to vote on March 1st. Thanks.
just saying what Andrew said, voting is really the most important thing. We come up here to tell you everything that we can, and I encourage everybody else, if you have any other further questions, to please approach any of us. We'd be happy to talk more about all the things that we've discussed today. There have been some really great ideas being thrown around. But it is, voting is the most important thing, and just moving forward, keeping a lot of these things that we've been talking in mind, making council more transparent, making connection with our constituents, and improving the overall life of Clark, I think are some really great things to keep in mind. So, thank you.
Okay, we're officially done now. Thank you and have a good night.